my daughters put him in a life jacket and shoved him all the way to Pelican Plunge and got him to go down the water slide.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. At not even 3. That's like amazing.
Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the DCL Duo podcast, brought to you by My Path Unwinding Travel. And Sam, it's review time. Review time once again.
Woohoo!
This week's review comes from PS3487. That's like New York Public School 3487. Maybe they all listen together in the gymnasium. They write...
It's a whole school of kids.
Yeah, there you go. Cruising elevated! This podcast has single-handedly hooked us on Disney cruising. We've yet to book our first voyage, but we feel like we are platinum level already. Whether it's experiencing the culinary delights of Palo or the special touches that make a trip concierge special, listening to the DCL Duo will give you the most vicarious pleasure of any Disney podcast. Well, thank you for that. We love it when people can live a bit vicariously. That is absolutely why we have the tagline, Disney Cruising Elevated, because I like to get out there, find people who are doing those fun experiences, or occasionally do them ourselves and bring them back and share them, because we know not everyone out there can do them. And also there are many that we've talked about we can't even do ourselves. So
yeah. Well, and it sounds like PS is an honorary Pearl Castaway Club member. You know, set your sights high, PS. Don't go just for platinum. Go for Pearl. That's what I say.
There you go. That's it. Sam bestows Pearl upon you with no authority or ability to do so.
Yeah. And no pixie dust either.
Yes. But with that, remember, one of the easiest ways that you can help out our show is by heading over to Apple Podcasts and hitting those 5 stars. I'll say any podcast player that you can rate us highly, and it helps, but especially on Apple, because we know about 80% of our audience listens to us on Apple Podcasts today. So hit those 5 stars. If you leave us a written review, we will read it on the air at the top of one of our shows. With that, Sam, I am excited to welcome back a returning guest. Haven't had him on in a while, and it's going to be really fun.
I know. He's the second dad to the right for those who read his blog. He has been a guest a couple of times on our show, on both I believe our live show and our recorded show. We're super excited to welcome Alex back to the show. Welcome back, Alex.
Thanks for having me. I hope that when I get to 5, this is my 3rd time. I hope when I get to 5, I get a jacket like the SNL.
You've become part of the 5-timer club. I'm sorry, we do not have yet jackets available for 5. We actually have quite a few guests who've been on like 5 times. So yeah, that would be an expensive
jacket. To start
jacket.
the DCL Duo Castaway Club, over here, like we'll have to do it like podcast microphone themed in some way.
Yeah, like a silver microphone, gold microphone, platinum microphone, pearl microphone, right?
Well, what we could do is magnets. We could do magnets for guests who've been on a certain number of times, like a special magnet. So there you go. I'm on it.
It's like our friend Tinfoil Mouse Ears, who has the Tinfoil Mouseketeers, that he gives you a Tinfoil Mouseketeer magnet if you have contributed to one of his blog posts on our Substack. And so by the way, I want to just put it out there, I am a Tinfoil Mouseketeer because I have contributed to one of his blog posts. But yeah, I feel like we need to have, I love that idea, Brian. We need to have something. Alex, you have a blog, Second Dad to the Right. Tell people about the blog before we jump into today's show topic, and how you got it started, and your Disney background, because I feel like that sort of leads into our show today.
Okay, so we're Atlanta natives, and we started going in 2017. I've got 2 older daughters who were, I think, 4 and 2 at the time, and we finally were like, hey, we should check out Disney. Our girls love Disney princesses. We went there, and I was just being a good dad. Actually, the main reason we went was because I was running a Spartan race, and that was how I convinced my wife to let me go down to Tampa. But then I got hooked. Like, we went there, it ended up, I was like, we'll go to Disney for a day. You come with me. And she was like, how about we bring the whole family and my mom and my grandmother? So they were confused when I went and ran the race at the end of the week. But, and so we just got hooked. We started going back as much as we could. And then when COVID hit, it really became special to us, because it was like that one place that was real safe. And we finally got out of the house. And they kept upgrading us to suites and stuff because nobody was there. And so, we just started going back as much as we could. And people started asking us questions. And my wife finally was like, you should just start a blog about it. And then we can write it off for our taxes. And so I started writing about, going to Disney World and doing Disney cruises. And so it's been a fun adventure to make that a new hobby for me.
Yeah. Well, and at least one of your kids writes on your blog as
so
well, right?
my 11-year-old daughter, she's probably written 6 or 7 blog posts. And then my 9-year-old, she's only written 1. She's not as interested. My 11-year-old uses it for video game money. I was paying her in Doorables, but now I'm paying her in video games.
Is that like in Robux, or is it money on Steam?
It's like she'll earn $15 towards a random game. They bought some Hello Kitty game. For whatever reason, I don't know if she's stealing from us, but my middle daughter always has a whole bunch of cash on hand. And so she'll supply the rest that the older daughter needs to buy the game.
Oh, nice. They chip in. Very, very smart.
She's like second dad to the right. She's like, you're the FDIC insurance here. She's like, yeah,
so
her sister.
She's like, well, I found random cash in a drawer. It's mine now.
I love that. That is hilarious. All right. Well, tell our audience how many cruises you have been on with Disney Cruise Line.
So this is our 5th. So we are finally gold. So I finally feel like I sort of belong on the Elevated Cruise podcast, but not for lack of trying. So for anybody we have 5 people in our family, so it's really hard to find a decent price on a cruise. But we managed to find one in late January. So it ended up being pretty good. We were able to apply 2 different onboard credits to it. Only got 10% off, but still had the extra $250 to apply to that. And I don't know if you can do that anymore, because the person at the front desk, when I did it again this time, looked at me like I was crazy.
Wait, so you had like a placeholder, or did you have something else?
Yeah, so because we have 5 people, I always book 2 placeholders, always hoping that I could convince some grandparents to go with us so that we can have a room of 4 instead of 5, and they could take one of the kids. And we managed to do that once on the Fantasy a couple of years ago, but it ended up just being us. And my travel agent was like, well, do you want to just apply the other one to your cruise, or do you want to just let it expire? And I was like, well, I guess just put it on the cruise since we've already paid for it. So I was able to put $500 on the cruise instead of $250.
Gotcha. Right. You only get the 10% discount, obviously, but that's nice if you can apply credit that you sort of just have hanging out there to a cruise you've already booked if you're not going to use that placeholder. Yeah, that makes sense. Great. All right. Well, so you book this dream cruise for your family of 5. Tell us what itinerary you booked, and why you chose that itinerary.
So we're Atlanta based. I think I mentioned that. And so sailing out of Florida is really easy for us. So this one went out of Miami, and we picked it because number one, we really liked the private islands with our little kids, trying to do excursions, especially so we have an 11-year-old daughter, a 9-year-old daughter, and then we have he was 2 on the ship, a 2-year-old boy, our little COVID surprise. And so we're not really interested in going to see some awesome whatever, because we either have to leave him on the boat or he can't go because you can't. And so we did a Nassau where we just stayed on the boat, and then we did Lookout Cay and Castaway Cay. Or so it was Castaway Cay first and then Lookout Cay, which I think, was that your DCL duo dip? What do you call it?
Duo dip. Yeah, it's a duo dip. We love it. I love that. That's a great itinerary. So how many nights was this? Was it a 5-night cruise then?
5 nights, yeah. So we only have 1 day at sea.
Yeah. That's pretty typical. I mean, if you're obviously with 3 stops, because you got embarkation day, and that counts as 1 night, so you can't really fit more than 1 sea day in there. Okay, so how far in advance did you book this? Were you like booking like opening day, or were you booking sort of more last minute, or something in between?
We almost always do everything last minute, so it wasn't super last minute, nothing crazy. Like I think you guys had one guy who was booked like 2 weeks ahead of time or something crazy like that. But I think we booked in September, October for a January trip, just because we thought, hey, let's take a look, see what the prices are. And this one ended up being good for a family of 5.
Perfect. And what kind of stateroom did you guys book? Do you have a typical stateroom that you guys like to book? Obviously, there's a limitation on what you can book with
Yeah, I mean,
five.
we're
There's
pretty much
certain.
locked into the deluxe veranda that's got room for the crib or deluxe ocean view, and so we always get the veranda because it's usually only 100 or 200 more because Disney has so many verandas. We never stay concierge, but so we had a deluxe veranda or the one that's C spot. So it's basically normal room, and then it's got about 5 feet more before the balcony where you can put the crib or a roll-away bed. So we had a crib for the 2-year-old.
Well, let's jump to onboard booking window. I love that. By the way, we are hearing kids in the background, but
Okay.
I'm really loving it. So
I'm
I just
texting
want
right
to.
now.
Listen, Alex, this is normal. Like this
If you
is
can't listen to a Disney podcast with some kids in the background, then you should
I
not
mean,
be
and
on
they're
a
a
Disney ship
long
or Disney
way
park.
from me, which is incredible. Because I'm in the back corner of a bedroom with the door shut. Oh man, yeah. I thought they were eating dinner. Apparently, the rest.
Well, it sounds like they finished.
There's 3 other
Um,
adults here.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, your onboard booking window opens. You all at the time of booking were silver, as you mentioned. You're now gold. But for folks who haven't heard us say this before, even your 5th cruise, you're still silver on the cruise. It's after your 5th cruise that you become gold. So to book stuff for your 5th cruise, you're still in that silver booking window. Of course, you got kind of a packed itinerary with only one day at sea and obviously, going to both private islands. Did you guys have anything in particular that you really, wanted to book in that, onboard booking window opened for silver? And did you have any difficulty getting anything that you wanted, if so?
So the only thing that we were really interested in booking, because like I said, we weren't really interested in excursions because we had got the little guy, was the fine dining. And so because I never thought this was going to happen because the food is so good in the restaurants that I was like, why would we even want to ever go to, Palo or Ribby? It's weird. Like, it ends up being the same menu, since our first cruise in 2020, it's the same menu. And we're like, oh, we'll try the new stuff. And then we can put the kids in the childcare. And so I fought real hard. I managed to get a Remy because we'd never done Remy before. And I managed to get a Prima Nate Palo. On the ship, we were actually able to get another Palo reservation. The only thing we couldn't get that I tried to get because we only had one sea day was a brunch.
Yeah. Brunches, I think we've said this on other shows, but especially on a shorter cruise where you've only got one sea day, even if they're doing brunch on Nassau Day in addition to the one sea day, which I don't know if they did on your cruise. It wouldn't shock me one way or the other. But I will say, brunch is always the hottest ticket in town. Dinner is always easier to get because dinner is served every single night, right? In Palo and in Remy or Enchante on the newer ships. But Palo is only going to be served on a sea day or occasionally, depending upon the itinerary, could be also, if you don't have any sea day, it will be on a Nassau Day. If you have a sea day, there's a chance you might have it on a Nassau Day as well. But in general, it's much more limited. So, okay. So that's really great. I will definitely want to dive into talking about those when we get there. But let's talk about your trip down to Florida. I imagine you guys are driving from Atlanta, not that far.
Well, we sailed out of Miami, so that's another 4 hours.
Or Fort Lauderdale, right?
So yeah. Fort Lauderdale, yeah. So we flew to Fort Lauderdale, and we do a lot of points and miles credit card stuff. So we stayed at the Hyatt Centric Las Olas, which is part of Fort Lauderdale, for a couple nights, and went to the beach. So we like to get there real early because we don't want last thing we want us to have to, freak out the day of. So we always try to get to the port there. So we got to. Now, a pain for us was trying to get transport. We managed to get a shuttle because we had to have a car seat for the little guy unless we get a shuttle. So we did manage to get a shuttle there. And then we had to figure out how to take the city bus to get to the beach. And then
from the
was
hotel to hang out at the beach.
yeah,
getting the bus.
that was a
Oh.
nightmare because we couldn't really figure out where the stop was, and we saw the bus we needed on the other side of the road, and so we're like running across the street with all this borrowed beach stuff that we got from the hotel. My 9-year-old, the go-getter, flagged down the bus and convinced her to let us on in the middle. Like, we weren't even at a bus stop. She
Yeah, the bus
got
stop,
us
right?
on
They'd left the
bus.
bus stop and then in the middle of the street. Yeah. Oh my God.
We were
middle of the
clear
block.
tourists. We're like, how do you pay for the bus?
That's a great question, Alex. How do you pay for the bus in Fort Lauderdale?
I think what you're supposed to do, I think you're supposed to buy tickets ahead of time and you get a better deal, but you can just tap your credit card and it lets you on.
I mean, that's a good tip. We haven't, I'll be honest, Brian and I have not, we have sailed out of Fort Lauderdale, but thus far we haven't even gotten to stay in Fort Lauderdale because we've had snafus like every single time. And so we've ended up like sort of staying elsewhere. And we have not used the public transportation there, but we have used the great thing I think about modern technology is most places nowadays, you can tap to pay with credit cards on most public transportation, which is kind of amazing. All right, well, let's dive then into getting to the port. You said you used a shuttle service. Was it through the hotel or was it privately booked?
It was through the hotel. They had it was a private company, but it was through the hotel, and they took us to the hotel, and then we asked them if they could take us to the terminal, and they said, yeah, we can do that. So we called them the day of, and they couldn't drop us off right at our port arrival time. They had to drop us off like 45 minutes early, which was an adventure in and of itself. We had to stand in like basically a cattle fencing area in the middle of this parking deck where cars were going around us waiting for them to call our port arrival time. It was bizarre.
Oh, that sucks. Were you at least able to drop off your luggage? Like were the porters able to take your luggage?
Yeah, the porters were able to take our luggage, so that wasn't too bad. So we're just sitting there.
But you couldn't go into the terminal, which it's such a nice terminal with plenty of like waiting room and stuff in there, right? It seems so silly. Yeah.
Yeah. So we sat in this area inside the parking deck for 20 minutes or so.
And so this is the Fort Lauderdale terminal.
Yeah,
right?
in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where in the parking deck? Because they have like the bottom floor, which is like cavernously tall, and then the parking.
Yes, the bottom floor where all the buses go around.
Where the buses are. Yeah.
Right in the middle, like where you have to cross the bus lane. They had just like rows lined up for every 15 minutes, and just had people just sitting there. So we were basically just like in a fence while buses went around us in a circle.
We when we got there for our last cruise, I remember seeing that. But, we were sailing concierge that cruise, Brian. So there was a separate line for concierge. So we got to go in right away. And I remember seeing this huge line of people and trying to just even figure out where the end of the line was like crazy. It seems it's certainly, it's a nice terminal once you get inside, but not so nice outside in the in that garage area.
I have to say that I think I've had some bizarre experiences, but getting on the Disney cruise, with the exception of Port Canaveral, has been amazing. But when we sailed twice out of New Orleans and then once out of Fort Lauderdale, and both of those were just nightmares. But this one, so it was like once we got in, they checked us in and they were mad at me because the girls' birth certificates were cut off. And I submitted a photo that has their birth certificates and you guys approved it. You're seeing a square picture on your screen. I didn't submit a square picture. Like, your system cut it off. And finally a manager came over and was like, I was like, here are the birth certificates. Like,
here's right. You can rescan them if you need to, right?
Yeah. And finally a manager came over and you're like, it's fine. They've been approved. Like, why are you bothering? And I was like, is this the first time you've ever had anyone use a rectangular picture?
Yeah. Well, and most birth certificates
it's
are
8 by 11
on
sheet of paper.
A letter sheet of letter paper, and so 8.5 by 11, and so what else? I guess I don't know. Maybe there are some states that do shorter form birth certificates, but
maybe everybody uses their passport. I guess if she wasn't used to seeing birth certificates.
Our kid, I'll be honest, our kid does have a passport, but a lot of kids don't yet have a passport. So
we have a form too, but we had just ordered them and we didn't so they were in the mail when I had to submit them a few weeks ahead of time. So
and whatever you use for the online check-in is what you need to bring with you, right? To the port.
So we had the passports and the birth certificates.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can switch it to a passport, but it's just easier to have whatever the form that you used online, because that's what's already been approved. All right, well, let's jump into the boarding process. Like, how did it take a long time? Obviously, it sounds like there was this like snafu with some port person who didn't know what the heck where they were doing. But how long did it take you before you guys got like actually onto the ship for your boarding?
So we got there, I think we had 11:15, which I think is the earliest port arrival time I've had. And I think we sat in the terminal for 30 minutes at least, maybe longer. It was a while. So they've got these long rows of chairs, and Asher and Amelia, my two younger ones, were just crawling, chasing each other underneath them, which was fine because they couldn't go very fast. So we do what they were at all times. But we could already connect to the Wi-Fi at the boat. So we were getting everything set up that way and taking pictures at random photo spots they had. So it was all right. It wasn't terrible.
Yeah, I mean that's a good tip though about the getting on the ship's Wi-Fi, because there are things that you can still sometimes book from, like that you want to sort of reserve a spot for, like if you want to do the Art of the Theme Ship tour, or on the newer ships it's like the Imagineering tour, which are adult tours of the ship. You can like book that and reserve it, from your phone in the terminal. Or if there's like open drink tastings and things like that that you want to book, you can potentially do that from right there, and start favoriting things in the app as to like what activities you maybe want to do. All right, well, let's talk about this cruise. You guys are, you're pros. You've been on all four of the original ships now. Was this your first time on the Dream, or had you been on the Dream
Yeah, it was our
before?
first time. Yeah, it was our first
Oh,
time. We've done the
nice.
fantasy twice. So it was our first time I was drinking.
Nice. Okay, so you've been then on the Wonder once, the Magic once, the Fantasy twice, and now the Dream. So you're when at the end of the show we got to ask you what's next, but I'm hoping you're going to say that the Wish and the Treasure are next, so you can get across. You got to hit that Big Hero 6 until Destiny and Adventure come out, and then we're all screwed. But all right, well,
And the
so
four other ships.
first. Yeah, well, and then exactly, and then we get to 13 real fast. So tell us what were your first impressions of the Dream? She's obviously the sister ship of the Fantasy. She was the first of her class, but she has different decor than different style decor than the Fantasy. Just curious as to your impressions.
So you walk in and you get hit with the awesome smell that all the Disney lobbies have. And then they have that beautiful chandelier that the Dream had, which was cool. But other than that, it was familiar enough because the layout's so similar to the Fantasy. And so it was easy to navigate, just we knew where everything was. And of course, we get on the ship and my goal is not to take in the ship. My goal is to rush to the nursery to book all the extra time that we need, because you only get 10 hours originally of childcare and then ahead of time, and then you can go and ask for more after that. And so, after we booked our 10 hours of childcare, we were still trying to get, Remy's and Palos and trying to work all that out and figure that out. And so,
Yeah, that's a great point. It typically is that the first place you go when you get on board, if if you're getting on a ship. Yeah. Cause I mean, and it seems like it's fairly easy to get additional time if you are a planner like you are, and go, early on that first day and book. But do they limit you really once when you're there in person?
I don't think they're sold out for anything that we wanted. But I know what does sell out. And so we booked that ahead of time. So like, sea days book up. So we booked a window on the one sea day to make sure we had some childcare there. And then, any of the meals that we had already established that we wanted that, or if there was a show that we thought he couldn't sit through, we booked that.
That's a really good point. And that actually makes probably looking at everything in the app while you're in the terminal even more important, right? Because then you can see sort of those activities that you might want to do, or those shows that you might want to see, that you'll need that childcare time for, because it's either an adult only, or because it's, it won't be something that he can sit through. And I think I got a note for people listening, like, those adult only meals particularly Remy and Enchante, are longer meals. Like, so you're not talking like an hour, hour and a half meal. You're talking like a 3 hour. I mean, it could even be more than that if you're.
I think they can accelerate things. If you tell them like, look, I want to have this meal, but I have a child in the nursery, I think they can kind of make, but the experience of
push you
those
to do
meals
that.
is well, they don't push you to it, but the experience of those meals is also better kind of over the longer time frame that they suggest or that they build in. So yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's talk about some of the stuff you guys got up to. I want to jump to the ports right away because you got to go to Castaway and Lookout. You mentioned at the top of the show you didn't get off at Nassau. Not that's not a huge surprise, right? You're looking for fun beach day with younger kids, with your 11-year-old, your 9-year-old, and your 2-year-old, soon to be 3-year-old as we're recording this. So yeah, tell us what did you didn't book any excursions or anything on the private islands, did you?
Right. No, we didn't book any excursions. And with Nassau, my wife and I Audrey and I have been to Nassau, like for real. Like we stayed at Atlantis, went to Great Cliff, all sorts of stuff like that. So, and then I've done some mission trip work in the Bahamas as well. And so it didn't really, like, there was nothing really we wanted to see that we hadn't seen ourselves. And it just makes it harder with kids. And then we also got a crime advisory from the ship about Nassau, but we had already decided before that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would make anyone who was planning on getting off without an excursion in particular probably rethink getting off. I mean, I know it would for me. It definitely would for me. All right. Well, okay. So what did you guys get up to on Castaway? What does a day at Castaway look like with your family of 5?
So Castaway, so in the past, when he was littler, we just left him in the nursery because you can just, like, they'll let you keep him in childcare there because, it's hard to navigate the island. But this time we're like, he's older, he knows stuff. So we took him to the water. We played in the water. Now this is January. And so it was hot outside, probably in the 80s, but the water was icy. It was so, you had to like kind of jump into it to get used to it. But my daughters put him in a life jacket and shoved him all the way to Pelican Plunge and got him to go down the water slide.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. At not even 3. That's like amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Are they good swimmers, your daughters?
Yeah, they're good. But everybody has to, I don't know if everybody has to, but they were wearing life jackets just to make things easier.
Sure. But, I mean, Pelican Plunge, like for people who haven't been there, Pelican Plunge is still kind of a ways out, even if you're a good swimmer. Like it's a ways out. It's not a bad idea, especially for kids, to be wearing a life jacket to swim out there.
And so my wife did go out there too, but like they had taken him and like beat her way out. So she was having to swim to catch up. But so he went down Pelican Plunge. He liked that, but he really liked the splash pad. It's not very big at all, but he was having so much fun with all the little spouts and everything like that. And
the water's not as cold as the ocean, the water at the splash pad.
And we're not big morning people, so we probably didn't get off the boat till 9:30 or 10. We had breakfast on the boat and just took our time getting off and eating in cabanas. And then so nap time is usually around 1 or 2. And I was like, is one of us going to take him back to the boat? And so what I decided is that I went back and got my running gear on and put him in one of the rental strollers. And the strollers are nice. They're nice jogging strollers, and took him for the Castaway 5K, like while he slept. And so I gave him a medal.
No, that's perfect.
So
that's such a good idea.
While he's asleep.
While he's asleep, he's passed out. Yeah.
That's
That's
he was
a
awake
great
for the first
idea.
half, so I got to take him up the Lookout Tower.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then he got his, at least, did he stay like asleep after you finished running?
Yeah. He
rest of his nap?
was just, because I just kind of walked around with him until it was time to get back on the boat. And my wife, I think my girls actually just went back to the boat and like watched Funnel Vision, and my wife sat on the beach.
Nice. I love that. That's such a good idea though for little ones, like little ones who still, who obviously are good in a stroller or tolerate being in a stroller. I will say at the parks, we used to do very similar to what you're talking about. I mean, we used to, rather than leaving, I mean, it was typically land where you can actually walk back, but even at World, like I mean, both places where obviously it's, it's a long walk or it's a bus ride or whatever. Like instead of going back to our hotel for Nathan to take a nap when he was of that age, we would like put him in the stroller, lean the seat all the way back, put the sunshade all the way forward. And we never did like the umbrella stroller. We did like always like we'd either rent or bring a real stroller, because you want that sunshade that will allow them to actually fall asleep. And we'd walk around. We wouldn't obviously ride rides, but we continue walking around and just enjoying the street atmosphere and we'd go into shops or we'd go into shopping because that way he wouldn't.
Clutch. Yeah, it was clutch because then he wouldn't be like, oh, I want this, oh, I want this, oh, I want this, because he was asleep. So we'd buy the t-shirts we wanted.
Yeah.
And get the heck out of Dodge. So yeah.
You shove it was like the stroller. You have your store. It's your shopping
exactly,
cart.
And then you have your storage in the stroller. Exactly. It was honestly, it was perfect, and would give us we would, like Brian said, we'd do our shopping, but then we'd go to Starbucks and get our our iced tea or afternoon snack, and just kind of like either walk around or find some place to sit, and he'd be just asleep in the stroller, so he'd get his nap in without us.
Yeah, we actually did that yesterday.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you were at Walt Disney World yesterday.
Yeah, we went to Epcot. Because we wanted to go pick up our pass holder magnets.
Nice.
And we convinced him. We just started walking until he fell asleep, and then we went and ate at Tepanitos, a hibachi place, and he slept next to the table until the presentation started. So he got to wake up to see the choo-choo train on the onions.
Oh, that's so cute. I love that. All right,
and he was eating goldfish out of the little sauce cups.
Are you listening to our show because you want to make the most out of your next vacation? Great news, the fabulous team over at My Path Unwinding Travel can help guide you so you don't miss a thing. Their team of professional travel advisors are caring, knowledgeable, and experienced. It's why we use them to book our own travel. My Path Unwinding Travel is an authorized Disney vacation planner, which means they are recognized by Disney for their expertise and service. They have sailed on all the Disney ships, including in concierge, visited the theme parks, adventured with Disney, relaxed at Aulani, and so much more. Whether it's a Disney cruise, a theme park vacation, or Adventures by Disney, or if you are looking to expand beyond the mouse, My Path Unwinding Travel will elevate your next vacation planning experience. Even if you have already booked, reach out for a complimentary consultation to make your vacation even more magical. Ready to talk to the experts? Head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo or email dclduo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. Thanks, My Path Unwinding, for sponsoring today's show. Now back to the episode.
All right, so it sounds like a great day at Castaway then. Let's talk about Lookout. Was this your first time to Lookout?
Yeah, this was our very first time to Lookout. And so our girls were kind of unenthused about the walk because they'd seen pictures. So they actually just stayed on the boat, and we put him in the nursery on the boat. And two of us, we just enjoyed Lookout ourselves, which was so much nicer.
That's awesome.
Because I want to write about it. So I didn't argue with them. I was like, well, I can go and just take pictures of whatever I want to so that I can, work on articles about it and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a vastly different experience, but we'll get into that.
Right. It's totally different. Very different from Castaway. Did you get to spend time on the adult only, like on Serenity Bay, or did you try to walk sort of the whole family beach
we did.
and adult beach?
We walked pretty
area?
much everything, but we started by going straight to Serenity Bay. So we did the walk, and we kept turning around to take pictures of the boat. Because I realized with some of my articles that I don't have enough pictures just of a boat because I'm always in the boat.
Fair.
So we did that, and then it kind of feels like you're walking into a Disney park, like the way they have it. Like where the security is, it looks like one of the ticket counters. Like you walk in, it's like, oh, this is the Bahamas park that you're in. And then you get on this long tram. So you got a long walk and then a long tram. And then finally you're in paradise. And so we got there and we're like, the kids would really love this. And then we were like, but it would take us an hour to get back here.
To go back and get them. Yeah.
So we went to Serenity Bay. And what was weird was that I went to the bar, and at this point, it was like probably 10:30 or 11, and they were already out of the random beer that I ordered. And I was like, oh, okay, that's random. But I'm happy to say there was no bugs. A lot of people have talked about the flies. There was no flies at the restaurant or at the bars. So we went there and we went down to the bay. What I always thought was interesting was they kind of realized what's wrong with Castaway Cay, which is there's no seating. and there are chairs everywhere.
Everywhere.
Chairs on the beach, chairs in random areas where if you don't feel like being at the beach. And so we walked down to the adults only part, and it was a little different because you can still see the family beach. So you can see all the kids. And then there was some really enterprising families that were like, because if you walk through Serenity Bay out the other side, there's a sign that says leaving Disney property. And there was several families with kids in that area.
Oh,
And
interesting.
we watched the security go talk to them, and they're like, look, we're outside of Disney property. Like, you can't tell us to leave, even though we're sitting in the adult. And they left them alone, and they stayed there the whole time that we were sitting there.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah. I mean, if once where Disney property ends, right, the Disney security doesn't get to regulate who's sitting there. It's public beach property, really.
Which was also interesting on the other side. So we walked through, and, it got really crowded in the family beach. It was almost like being at, Myrtle Beach or Destin or somewhere where it's like real crowded in certain areas. And if you keep walking, so here's a tip for everybody, keep walking back towards the ship on the beach. There's still chairs, but all the people were gone. And so there was lots of places there. But then we saw all these cliffs, and we're like, let's go look at those cliffs. And surely we're not allowed to climb on the cliffs. And there's a sign that Disney looks like a sandwich board thing, but there was nothing on the sandwich board. And we were like, oh, okay. And then a bunch of other people just walked up the cliffs, and we're like, okay, we'll walk up the cliffs. And you go up the cliffs, and you can get to the lighthouse. And if you go to the lighthouse, you turn around, there's a sign that says, don't go over the slide. And I was like, but that's where we came from. We don't know how to get that. So I'm not saying your guests should do this or the listeners should do this. But then if you get to the other side, there's like a private beach where you can just look at the ship, and there's a little bit of sand there, and then just really cool places to look out. But they shouldn't do it, because I'm sure we weren't supposed to do it, but nobody seemed to care.
That's so funny. We did not venture that far. So we did try and sort of venture towards the right end of the family beach, because that is the less crowded end of and it's also where, if your kids are going to the kids club is in that direction. It's not all the way to the end, but it's in that direction. And the other barbecue spot. So there's two places to eat. True Barbecue and
True Barbecue and True Barbecue.
True Barbecue, thank you. Yeah. And so the one that is less crowded is the one that's in that direction always. And so people, I think it's just because, like, when you get to Lookout and you get to like the store, right? When you get off the tram, you get onto the store, and like everybody goes to the beach that's like right in front of them, right? Instead of walking a little bit to the right, and then you get to a less, it's the same beach, but it's just the less crowded spot of it. So pro tip, if you want a little bit less crowded spot, head to the right, and sort of towards where, away from the cultural center and sort of towards where the kids club and the other barbecue place are. Yeah.
Eventually they'll stop being chairs. So if you want chairs, you have to be a little bit closer. But it's really the sand. That's not my first time in Eleuthera. Like I said, I did a mission trip there, but that pink sand is really cool looking. Of course, you can't be there at sunset because you got to get back on the boat. But if you could ever be there at sunset, it like makes the beach pink. It's really cool.
Just in the sun, with the sun sort of hitting as it's setting, hitting the beach. I bet it's
for some reason you have a call to the boat at 6:00 in the winter or something, you might be able to see it, but it's usually not. But so then we walked back through the areas, and we saw this. They have a splash pad there that absolutely puts the Castaway Cay one to shame. I mean, it's got these like huge 2-story. It's basically a playground, like 2-story water slides. Better than any of the splash pads at Disney World. There's a toddler area, but I asked, and a lot of times the toddlers can't go, if they're wearing diapers, can't go into the big area. And I asked, and he was like, well, as long as they're wearing a diaper, they can. I don't know if that was just that one lifeguard or if that's the rule, because the sign says they weren't supposed to. But we didn't do it either way, because I wasn't going back to the ship to get him and bring him back out. But
yeah. Well, there's no like physical barrier. That's like the difference, right? Like the one at Castaway, there's just like it's clearly like for very little kids, the splash area, because all it is little water spouts coming out of the ground, right? Whereas this one has some stuff that the kids can interact with. And then it's sort of is attached to the rest of the splash pad and the big play structure that has the water slides and stuff. And so we don't have any water slides. Yeah, I mean, there's no water slides out in the water like you have with Pelican Plunge, but the one, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it. Brian, do you remember the name of it?
What?
This splash area. Yeah.
Oh, it's the what is it called? I have to look it up.
I can't remember. It's driving me crazy. I know Alex is trying to remember it also.
I've got a bunch of pictures. Sebastian's Cove is the kids area.
The kids club. That's the kids club. Yeah. But it's the oh my goodness. Why am I Rush Out Gush Out? That's it. Rush Out Gush. Yeah.
Which sounds an awful lot like one of the roller coasters. Water slides that was it Typhoon.
Oh, at Typhoon, is it? It's been so long. I haven't been, it's actually, I was
something
realizing.
Gusher. I can't remember.
Oh, okay. I was telling Brian the other day, I don't think I've actually ever been to Typhoon Lagoon in my entire life. I know that sounds kind of crazy as like a big Disney fan. Like I've been to Blizzard Beach when it like first opened, but I don't think I've ever been to Typhoon Lagoon.
Alex, I want to ask you this question. You went to Castaway Cay, you went to Lookout Cay. You're the second dad to the right. Someone comes to you and says, I got a choice to make here. I can either sail on, let's just put the Destiny in place, and she's going to come out and say, I can either sail on the Disney Destiny and go to Lookout Cay, or I can hop on the Disney Fantasy and go to Castaway Cay. And I got kids in tow. Which island are you recommending?
So if you can get your kids to the island and you're not interested in coming back, I would say Lookout. Like, I think if Lookout was as close as Castaway, it wouldn't even be close. The Lookout is just more fun. Like with the you've got the water, you've got the splash pad. Like they don't like the sand. Like some kids don't like getting sandy. Some kids don't like salt water. Then you've got the splash pad. There's tons to do, and it's less stressful to me not having to fight for chairs. Because we were at Castaway, and I found one chair that didn't have anything on it because we got there late because we're lazy. And I put my stuff down. Right. Which there's a lot of people there. Yeah. So I put my stuff down and this girl comes out of nowhere and she's like, and I found two other chairs that were stacked. And so I had like two like sitting chairs at one. And this girl comes out of nowhere. She's like, that's our chair. And I was like, and I had, it was off to the side and I dragged it back. And I said, where was it? And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, where was the chair? Where do you think I got it from? Because I had moved it. And she was like, never mind. And walked off. And I was like, if you can't even say, oh, well, I was tanning in that chair over there. And I had taken two other chairs from some other area and brought them over there. Like, I didn't even know which chair she was complaining about. It was just like, I couldn't even sit down before I was getting stressed out about trying to find somewhere for the family. That's just not at Lookout. It's like, there's just a million umbrellas, a million chairs. Because even just having somewhere to put down your stuff, even if you use those chairs that look out that can't see the ocean, like there's a bunch that are kind of behind the berm or the dunes, you just put your stuff down and then you can go over the,
I didn't need
and play in the ocean.
I didn't find I needed a chair at Lookout. Like half the time I just was standing in the water.
We never did.
Shallow.
We did get it. We got a couple of drinks and then got some like short chairs and stuffed them right in the water and let the water come up on us like Zach Brown song.
Yeah, I mean, you just need one place to.
Wait, hold on, I just want to pause for a second because we've heard this from a few listeners, and I have not experienced it. Castaway Cay is getting that full that you can't find chairs. It's
with
Brian, a dream class ship.
I know,
that's crazy.
It's crazy, but I think the issue is in part that so I don't understand when a family of 4 takes 4 lounge chairs. I want to put this out there. Like, we are a family of 3. We usually grab 2 lounge chairs for the 3 of us. We do not need 3 loungers because there's never going to be a time where all 3 of us is laying down.
Nathan's never like laying down. Like
he's never laying on a lounge chair. And we could live with 1 because most of the time the 2 of us are not laying on a lounge chair. So like, I don't understand when like a family of 4 takes 4 lounge chairs. I mean, maybe if you have teenagers who like do truly lay in the lounge chairs all day, but like in general, that's just not how most families work.
You're 2 adults, I get it. if you're two adults sailing with, two grandparents and one kid, I can understand taking 4 chairs, right? I mean, like, let me just say this. I put it less on the people going to sort through like how they can make enough space for everyone on the ship. And like, I just don't remember Castaway Cay having this challenge when we were sailing on the Fantasy and like for the first time in 2018 or any of the subsequent sailings that we had done, on the Dream Cross. Like, I don't know what's happened. Have they
Maybe they haven't replaced
taken
broken
chairs away?
chairs. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
I
they
mean,
haven't replaced broken ones. Who knows?
because if a Dream class ship is struggling, I can't even imagine what it must be like on a Wish class ship. Like,
Well, they're really not
or
different passenger numbers, Brian. Remember?
uh,
It's the same number of passengers,
yeah,
really,
yeah, I
within a
guess, but
couple
like,
of, yeah.
but I also wonder, is it like more adults are over on that beach because of the problems that Serenity Bay has had with all the sand erosion and such? Like,
That might be it.
I'd love to get to the bottom of like what is going on that you can't get a chair at Cast because I just don't remember that being a problem before. It's just insane.
And to be fair, we didn't check the first beach. We always go to the second beach thinking it'll be easier. My friend who's a travel agent swears that if you can get there, like if you'll go between the beaches, there's some like at the second stop, but if you walk back towards the first beach. So I did that first, but all those chairs were taken. Like
The
the
hard
ones that are,
part
like,
is
right
that
in front
that's
of
near Pelican Plunge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the hard part. I think so. I think that used to be kind of that a spot that people would tend to find chairs, but I think because that is where Pelican Plunge is, I think that area actually gets more crowded now. I do think that usually Second Family Beach is the way to go because a lot of people just get off the tram, either walk or get off the tram after the first stop, not realizing like there's a whole nother beach. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do think though, Brian, I think your point about Serenity Bay being so, I don't want to say terrible, but Serenity Bay at Castaway is not what it used to be. It's because of the erosion. And so it's this very, very shallow is the best way, shallow beach, right? Like you don't have like a long patch of sand that slopes down, nicely. You have a very steep slope at the beach because of that erosion, and so it's very short, even though it's long lengthwise, but it's short, to get to the water. And so I think that has made maybe some adults who used to go to Serenity now really spend their time at Lookout or spend their time at Family Beach. But I think your point is right, Alex. Like in general, if somebody were to say to me now, which would you choose? I would choose Lookout probably every time, with the one exception being that if you've got somebody who's mobility challenged, I probably would not make the recommendation. But in general, I would make that recommendation because it's a nicer beach and it's a better. I mean, there's more to do. It's beautiful. It is just getting your family across that darn pier. Just get the family to that tram and then you'll be fine. It's yeah. Well, let's talk about, did you try the food at Lookout?
Yeah, I felt like so at Castaway, it's more American fare and it's good, but they tried to have more Bahamian type food. I feel like at Lookout, and it was really good too. But it's obviously more adventurous if your kids aren't used to that. So being there with just my wife, it was great. We got to enjoy a lot of really good food.
They still have hamburgers. Don't worry.
Maybe I missed that part of the line.
Yeah,
I just
they do. There's like one part that has hamburgers and hot dogs. One of the windows, because they have different things at each window. There's one that has the hamburgers and hot dogs. So no, never fear. And French fries. So the French fries are an addition. They don't have them at Castaway. So yeah, so I think that's a bonus too. So they've got both. But I agree. I think the food is a great addition. All right, well let's talk about on the ship. Since we've hit both ports now, what kind of stuff did you guys get up to on your sea days or when you were on the ship or during Nassau Day?
I mean, we did tons of stuff. I always try to play some trivia with Della, the one that writes the blog articles, because she's a genius. Well, they're all geniuses, but she particularly is a trivia genius. And so like we did like an animated thing. I think we got like 5th place, which is pretty good. Trying to like remember what character did what. And she was knocking it out of the park, which was really fun. We always do one of the silent DJ parties, which are hysterical. That one, it was a little bit challenging because Asher, when he was a baby, he would just put the headphones on. And he's like, whatever. But now he's, like taking them off, putting them on, doesn't know what song we're looking on, getting mad at us for changing the songs to get the song that we're listening to. And so that didn't last as long as we thought it would. But we did that. So all three kids, one of the challenging things was all three kids were in different kids areas.
Oh yeah, because your oldest is 11, like ours. Yeah.
So she went to Edge, and that was the first time she's ever had a phone. So she was loving that. We had borrowed a phone from a friend so that she could text us, and so she was very diligent about answering texts and looking up the only thing she had was text and the Disney app. And so if anybody doesn't know, listening, like I think that Apple iMessenger works better than the ship chat. So if everybody has iPhones, y'all can chat with each other through Wi-Fi better than using the ship chat, even if you don't have the actual internet.
But you still want them to have the app because the app has the schedule of events. And so if for example, she wants to do like, they might have a special trivia in the Edge, or Edge invades the kids club, or, one of these like special things for the tweens, like she would want to know when those things are happening so that she can be there for those events. And so having the app, even for us, even though we don't use the app to chat with Nathan, we still make sure he has that so that if he does want to do something or he wants to know what the schedule is, he can open the app and see that. Yeah, that's super helpful. So you got her in Edge. You got the middle one is in Kids Club.
Yeah, Oceaneer, yeah. And we let her, she was allowed to go and come as long as we knew where she was going. So we let her have that freedom. And then, of course, he's still in the nursery, which is nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But he did not enjoy the nursery as much as...
Oh, he's not checking himself in and out of the nursery, obviously, but he didn't enjoy it as much. I wonder if it's because he's sort of at that older end of the nursery age now that
he knew that he was getting left behind, maybe.
Yeah.
But he also, I hate to say this, but the staff was not as like high energy, like, you're our best friend, we're so glad you're here, like they usually are. They were just like, oh, hey, let's check you in. Like it wasn't, like they didn't act excited to see him, and it was kind of awkward. And then they would text us like every 30 minutes to be like, he's having a tough time. And luckily they didn't do that during any of our like nice dinners. So was able to just go get him and take him out and that kind of thing. But yeah, he was super excited during like open house, like when we first got there. But then after that, he was not excited to be there unless somebody was excited to see him. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a bummer. But I mean, that definitely, I think that experience in any of the kids clubs, but I'm sure it's even more so in the nursery where they're so little, and where the ratio of counselors to kids is the lowest. If you have a really great interaction, or if your kid has a great interaction with those cast members, it can make that transition so much easier. So that's a bummer. I know it's funny. I was harking back to the episode that we did with you about like what the process is for the nursery and all of that. Like I used one of your tips just the other day. I was telling somebody, because they were going, they have kids that are, kids club age, but I think they have their niece or nephew, because the sister and brother-in-law are going with them with a nursery age kid. And I was like, make sure you're there like 10 to 15 minutes before your reservation time. I was like, I remember this because Alex told us, like, you need to be there to fill out the paperwork and stuff and give them extra information every time you check in. You need a little bit of time. There might be a line. Yeah.
Alex, can I ask you a question? So just generally, I mean, you've been on 5 cruises now. You've sailed on all the original ships, and you mentioned that your kid had a tough time, kind of in the kids club this time. Do you think that any of that has to do, like, what was the vibe with the staff on board this time around? Not just in the kids club, but more generally, because I think we've been growing a little worried that as Disney increases its fleet size, like its ability to kind of maintain the staff quality that it always wants to have is. I'll just say, and I think we've said this on a prior, we're seeing some cracks, some chinks in the armor here around that quality. Did you feel like that this time, or did you just think it was just, it was just a circumstance this time around?
So I would say we saw it with the nursery. I felt like the kids club nobody complained about the kids club counselors. Neither of the girls did. The only other place that I would say that I felt like it was not what it used to be was in the main dining. that I think they had too many tables. Like we would see you have your food server and your beverage server. We would see our beverage server bussing tables more than anything else. So we could never get her attention. And she would always just be like, we would have to ask our food server to bring us drinks that she hadn't brought us. And sometimes they would disappear for long periods of time, which has never happened. They didn't do it, like very rarely did they do like fun stuff with the kids, like where they were making napkins or magic tricks or whatever. In all the past cruises, we've really gotten to know them, learn about their home country and all sorts of stuff. And we had no problem not going to not going so that we could go to Palo and Remy, because we just felt like the service was really bad on this trip.
That's such a bummer.
Yeah. But inside the adult restaurants was amazing. Yeah. Food was the same quality, in my opinion.
Well, let's dive into talking about adult dining, because you got the opportunity to do head-to-head comparison between Palo and Remy on this cruise, and you said it was your first time going to Remy. And so, tell us, like, one, are you and Audrey adventurous eaters? Let's start there.
Yes, we're extremely adventurous. So we were down for whatever you put in front of us, just about.
Yeah. So tell us what your impression was of Remy and how it compares to Palo, and then of course like who you would recommend it for, because we've talked about that a lot on the show, but I'm curious to see if your experience sort of aligns with ours in that sense.
So Remy is probably top 3 nicest restaurants I've ever been to, both in terms of the food quality and presentation and in the cost. So. Because we were like, we're going to do this. We'll do the wine tasting. So we got the wine tasting, with tip and everything. It ended up being $600 for the whole meal, but it was an experience. I feel like regular meal Palo was a restaurant. It's a good restaurant, but Remy was an experience. It's a completely different vibe.
Let me interrupt you and tell you that if you go to a similar restaurant on land to Remy, you will pay at least twice what you quoted at $600, but probably more like 3 times that amount. So
I don't know. You think
with wine, yes. Yeah, with wine for 2 people. Yeah, I would say like
Victoria and Albert's is roughly maybe a little bit more than that. I don't know. I've never been to Victoria and Albert's, but
I can tell you, Sam, none of the places it's been a little while, but not
okay. Maybe
long.
Not 3 times, but definitely twice as much.
Yeah, I mean, it just it varies wildly. I mean, high quality tasting menu at one of these Michelin star places, like somewhere between $250 and $500 a person, easy.
Right,
and then
wine.
Really just the wine, but yeah,
right.
But
the wine. Yeah, it depends if you do pairings or if they have pairings, or versus ordering off of a menu. But
I'm guessing for 2, you'd be looking at somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 is probably what you're looking at spending for like a Michelin star. But that's not 3 times.
That's 2 times to 3 times, which is what I said, right? Yeah. Somewhere in between. I guess you got
to factor in the tip too. Yeah,
right.
I guess. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and look at what our last bill was at. Dinner by Heston Blumenthal.
Yeah, in London. Yeah. Anyway,
there's no.
So we did go to. Yeah. We went to New York in December and had looked. So we've been watching the show The Bear. Have you guys seen The Bear?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's probably a really dangerous show to watch because it makes you want to spend a lot of money on food. But so I looked up a couple of Michelin star restaurants in New York, and those were like starting at $250 a plate without the wine package. So yeah, that easily could have run up to twice or 3 times the price. But of course, that's New York, which is probably one of the most expensive cities in the country. So,
but not that, but if you think about it, like most of these kind of restaurants exist in the larger cities, right?
Yeah.
So you might have like one available to you in a smaller city. But in general, you're not going to have you're not going to have the same caliber in a smaller city as a Michelin star is what I'm saying. I'm not saying you won't have like nice restaurants. You might have fantastic restaurants, but in general, there's just not a plethora of Michelin star restaurants outside of large cities.
Well, that's actually changing quite a bit, Sam, because like Michelin just started a taco cantina.
Well, yeah, I mean like I said, there's exceptions to every rule, but there you don't have
in the U.S.
In the U.S., yes, in the U.S.
Outside the U.S., they actually have quite a few places that are sort of outside the urban areas. because like in the US, they tend to be in large cities.
Yes. Okay. So you said top 3 nicest restaurants that you've been to in your life. And Palo is a nice restaurant, but not is completely, you're right. It's an experience. What did you guys think of the food? Like, what did you think of, the quality of, the food they were presenting and the presentation?
I thought it was incredible. I mean, it looks like a piece of art. You feel bad digging into it and
and mixing it together,
wine,
right?
yeah. I always hesitate to talk too much about fancy food because I don't think I'm an expert on anything, but it tasted good, and the wine pairings worked really well together, and I could tell like how much effort they'd put into creating different flavors besides, as opposed to another restaurant you might want to go to, like a barbecue restaurant. It's like, how much food can they give you? And this was how artistic can they make it and creative they can make it. And it definitely felt like a work of art. So it was a great experience.
Awesome. And would you recommend it to people? And if so, like, who would you recommend it to? Because we try to like tell people when they ask us, oh, should I go to Palo or should I go to Remy? And we try to ask a few questions before we give that recommendation.
So you are giving up probably a show and you're giving up a main dining experience. And so I would say if you're new to Disney cruising, go do the main show, do the shows, do the main dining, and then as you get more experienced, move into that, which is what we did, just because I feel like we never were interested because we were afraid of missing out of stuff we also hadn't seen. But since we've done, I think we missed the Golden Mickeys and we mixed like a magic show or something. We were fine doing that because we've done those before. And so it's a 3-hour meal, making sure everybody else is taken care of and that we had enough childcare lined up and that, our girls weren't punching each other and Asher crying in the nursery or something like that.
Right. And you got to get them all fed too. That's the other part, right? You got to get them all fed
right.
like,
and so,
before you
which
go.
is easier.
Yeah.
That's easier than main dining because they'll just go get the pizza off the top deck. And
so, Sam, to return to the conversation for just a second, I did actually go look up what our last bill was at dinner by Heston Blumenthal. This is in September of 22, so it's 3 years old, and they don't have gratuity in the UK. I actually tried to pay gratuity in the UK. They wouldn't let me. And dinner is I think it's a 2-star.
Yeah.
A 2-star Michelin restaurant. And it was
or it could be
$862.
Oh, that's not. Wait, are you sure it wasn't pounds?
No, I'm looking at the dollars.
Okay.
That we got charged.
That's really good.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's part of why I like to go to that restaurant. But like that included wine and meal and everything. So like
we didn't have wine pairings, I don't think.
We didn't have wine pairing, but I definitely have. The way I found this is I'm looking at a photo of you cheersing me with a glass of wine. So there was definitely wine involved.
There was wine involved. I don't know if they did wine pairings, but yeah.
I think
fair.
Yeah. So anyway, just putting it out there.
I'll say the wine pairing is a lot of wine.
Yeah, it's a lot of wine, right? They have to like carry you out of, especially Remy, where you've already had a Colette cocktail to start the meal, right? They give you that cocktail right when you get seated. And so, if you do the wine pairings also, it's a lot of,
Yeah, I was supposed to have a whiskey tasting that night and I had to be like, I was like, I could still go if you're going to charge me for it, but you might have to like drag me back to my room afterwards.
Right.
Pro tip.
They're like, we hear you. We don't want you.
We don't want to overpour.
So, so they didn't charge me for the.
That's nice. That's nice. So don't count on it. For those listening, don't count on them not charging for that canceled drink tasting if you're canceling it day of. That is not guaranteed. And usually occasionally they will, but it's not guaranteed. So if you're going to cancel something, do it ahead of time, but don't book a drink tasting for the same night that you're doing a Remy or an Enchanté or even a Palo meal, frankly, because if you're going to have wine with your dinner.
I don't think they were full glasses of wine, but it was 5 glasses of wine. So probably ended up being the equivalent of 3 to 4 glasses of wine. And once you count that cocktail too.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's supposed to be a tasting pour, right? But they, which is, I think like, I don't know, 2 or 3 ounces, something like that. But they always give you, they're not like measuring it. So they're just kind of eyeballing it. And I feel like they tend to give you on the heavier side of whatever the pour is supposed to be. So, all right. Well, any other any other highlights from this cruise that you wanted to be sure to touch on? I feel like
I have a funny story about Remy that I got.
Oh yeah, I love that. Oh, you got in trouble.
Oh yeah. So I collect pens, like writing pens, like because they got this plastic Walt Disney World or Disney Cruise Line pens, and whenever I go, I ask. Usually, I'll ask, and they're like, take it. I'll give you 5, whatever." And I was like, "Well, this is a fun pen at Remy," and so I signed a check and put it in my pocket. And they called my stateroom 5 minutes later. Excuse me, and they were like, "Did you happen to take the pen?" And I was like, "Yeah, is that a problem?" Yeah, we need it back. And I looked at the pen, and it was a Cartier pen.
Oh,
Like,
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
that's
So,
funny.
I don't
take the
think
pen at Remy. You can take the pen out of Apollo, but don't take the pen out of Remy.
Oh my goodness.
You know what? I think the people at Remy, I think I've noticed this before. It's not like a Remy pen. I don't.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's
It must. Yeah.
It was
I think
just a
they buy the
thick
pen.
pen. I was like, this is a good pen, but it was a French pen, Cartier.
Oh my goodness.
Jewelry
that's
company pen. It was probably like a $200 pen.
Yeah, it's probably several $100s. Yeah.
I
at
ran it
least.
back up there.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want that on my folio.
On my stateroom bill. Yeah, absolutely. Oh
That's
my
funny.
goodness, Alex, that's so funny. I wouldn't have thought that. But
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've definitely taken pens from restaurants before, but I like the pens. I actually like it when the pen has like the name of the restaurant on it, right? And then they want you to take the pen typically because
So like I have
it's
a
like
Napa Rose
advertising.
pen.
Yeah.
And some of the other restaurants in Disneyland, and not a lot of them have. Napa Rose is probably the only one that's not just a Disney World or Disneyland pen, but
Yeah. Well, and at Palo, I think that's usually the Disney Cruise Line pen, the one that's
yeah,
it's like beige and then with the blue cap. Yeah. Yeah.
But the Prima Nocte, they gave us actual like collector pens, like pens you put in your shirt or hat, not writing pen. And so that was kind of fun to get. So the Prima Nocte was a great experience too.
Yeah, we didn't ask you about that. I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, so this was your first time doing Prima Notte?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you thought it was worthwhile. I think we've said it, definitely worthwhile experience.
Yeah, it was fun because you got so much education about the different areas of Italy, and we actually had dinner at the main serving and still did that, and the tastings were so small that we didn't feel like it was too much food, and the wine was good, and the really good desserts, and they gave you this collector's pen, so that was fun. And then of course we knew the staff, so when we went back for the dinner, it was real fun to interact with them.
And you can always request like a specific server at Palo or Remy if you know like someone who is there and maybe you dined with them before. But if you didn't, Prima Notte is a great opportunity to meet even usually a couple of the servers, and you can then request one of them for your dinner.
People always look at you weird when you say that you're doing the Prima Notte because they remember the movie Braveheart, which Prima Nocta was the thing where the king would take the bride on her wedding night instead of let her be with her husband. They're like, isn't that the thing where like I was like, no, it just means first night, like the person.
Disney is still a family-friendly cruise line, yes.
That's
yes,
right.
yes. Well, Alex, it sounds like a fantastic cruise. Is there anything like in particular we missed that you wanted to be sure that we talked about?
Beauty and the Beast was amazing. I heard Sam talk about that on I found your cruise episodes where you talked about the dream. Like I went and searched through Spotify to find them so I could get ready for the trip. And Beauty and the Beast was awesome. We took Asher in a beast costume. And that was a lot of fun. Marvel. We didn't talk about Marvel Day of Sea. So
you had Marvel Day at Sea.
Yeah. So that was awesome. Though there was a hiccup because we were too close to, I guess, U.S. waters on the night that we were supposed to have the fireworks show. And so they switched it and moved it to the night before. And it wasn't just the show. They moved to the night before. They moved all of the stuff they did in the atrium to the night before. And we totally were thrown off. So we had like costumes everybody was going to wear and we weren't ready for it at all. But we still got to meet all the characters and it was just really cool. I mean, there was characters everywhere.
That's awesome.
So
they moved the Heroes Unite deck party then to a different night. Interesting.
Yeah. So they moved the deck party and the atrium party to the night before, but then still called it Marvel Day at Sea, and did lots of other Marvel stuff the rest of that day, the next day. The only thing I'll complain about that is that they play soundtrack music the whole time over the speakers during them, and it's like really stressful. It's like you're in the middle of a fight scene every time you're waiting for an elevator.
Instead of like your like happy, maybe cruising versions of Disney songs and stuff. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
I
Instead it
could see
was like
that
dun
because
dun 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 dun.
yeah, that's like,
And so
that would be a little bit stressful. Your heart's like pounding from the suspenseful music. Yeah, I love that. So it sounds like you had a Marvel sundown to sundown day at sea.
yeah. Yeah. It was it
Yeah.
was a
It
marble
was like
Shabbat.
Shabbat or something. Yeah, it was like Shabbat. Exactly. You and I went the same place at the
Yeah.
same time. Alex, a Marvel Shabbat, sundown to sundown.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah, so that was a lot of fun because I'd been watching the Marvel movies with my oldest daughter, and then we've gotten Asher all the costumes. So he had a Thor costume and was running around what he calls the capes as supers, and so he runs around and this is the first time he hasn't been scared of characters, so it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that makes it even better.
Giving Mickey hugs and high fiving Spider-Man, and so
Well, Alex, it sounds like a fabulous time on board the Disney Dream. Glad you can put the Grand Slam to bed and maybe get on one of the newer ships, which leads me to my last question, which is what's next? Have you got anything booked? Did you pick up a placeholder? Anything you're eyeing or waiting for?
yeah, we got 2 placeholders because I'm always hoping that we'll get some grandparents to come with us. I think this time we're trying really hard to get Audrey's mom and grandmother to come with us. And if we could just get the girls with them, then we can save a ton of money.
Oh, yeah, because then you get 2 4-person rooms. Yeah.
Right. And it also opens up tons of availability on lots of cruise ships too. But definitely looking at the Wish, or maybe we'll try a destination time. So the kids are getting older. Like, I don't know. We really want to take the girls to Europe or Alaska at some point, but then we also have Asher and we don't know if we want to leave him with the rest of us. So we're still, I don't know what's going to happen. But because we've done so many, all 5 of them were Caribbean sailings. We're 4 Eastern and 1 Western Caribbean sailing. So
Yeah, you could always try like a West Coast like Baja cruise or something, but it's just more beach destinations, right? It's not like, but it's hard with the little one. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not against doing one of the long transatlantic or just repositioning cruises because that's a really good bang for your buck. And we really just enjoy days at sea sitting there reading. So we may attempt something like that if it works out with scheduling. That's the hard part, is that if it's during school, like I don't mind pulling my kids out for a week, but I'm not going to pull them out for 2 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, we keep looking at those longingly as well, looking at, transatlantic, trans-Pacific, Panama Canal, and they're all during our school year here.
Which is because that's the low time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's just not like you were. We can't even really pull at 11 now. It's just hard to pull him out even for a couple days is hard. So a week is hard, but yeah, 2 weeks is just not doable for us for sure. But yeah, well, I hope you decide on something new soon, and that you will come back and see us, and of course tell us all about it, because we so enjoy having you on, Alex. Alex, why don't you tell folks where they can find you if they want to follow along in your adventures, and where they can find your blog, of course.
So I write, mostly I'm a blogger for seconddadtotherright.com. That's instead of second star to the right. And I'm on Facebook and I'm on Pinterest. I used to be on Instagram, but it doesn't really get much. So now I just post reels on Facebook, try to drive traffic that way. So I post goofy stuff on Facebook, and then I post more informational stuff on the website. And I've got a bunch of articles on Disney World and on Disney Cruise, and then a couple on Disneyland from our trip last summer. But just trying to help people have more fun out there.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite articles that you wrote is all about the history of Castaway Cay. So I would definitely urge people to go to your website and check that one out. Check out all the stuff that Alex has got on there. And if you want like really detailed stuff about how to access the nursery, he has all kinds of great resources on Second Dad to the Right. So thanks so much, Alex, for coming on. We so appreciate you. And as I said, you're welcome back anytime. Can't wait to have you back on, hopefully after your next Disney cruise.
I love being here. Thanks, guys.
Well, thanks to everyone out there for listening this week. We really, really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you can keep getting great content from us every week. In fact, twice a week we publish shows. So be sure to hit the subscribe button to get all of those great episodes. And if you want to watch us live, we have a live show now every week, Monday nights, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern over on youtube.com/DCL Duo. So be sure to head over and check that out. If you want to help support the show, be sure to hit those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you leave us a written review, a 5-star written review, we will read it at the top of one of our main episodes. So please head over there and hit those 5 stars. Of course, you can also help support the show by supporting our fabulous show sponsor, My Path Unwinding Travel. If you want to book your next Disney vacation, head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo or email them at dclduo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. If you've got questions or you'd like to connect with us, the best way to do that is to head over to dclduo.com. It's got links to all of our things, full catalog of the podcast episodes, including a searchable catalog for the podcast, links off to our vlog, a link to our Etsy store where we sell some fun fan-inspired magnets, link to our Patreon if you'd like to help directly support the show each and every month. Just head over to the website or patreon.com/DCLDuo. Also has a way for you to sign up for our Substack newsletter that we're hoping to start really pumping out monthly here at least, and a few blog articles that we've written. So DCLDuo.com is the best way to connect with us. You can also, of course, email us at info@DCLDuo.com or reach out to us on our voicemail line at 402-413-5590. That's 402-413-5590. The DCL Duo podcast is not affiliated with Disney Cruise Line, the Disney Company, or the Disney family of theme parks. The views expressed on the show are solely those of the individuals on the podcast and in no way reflect the views of the Disney Company or Disney Cruise Line. If you have questions about a Disney cruise or a Disney vacation, please contact the great folks over at My Path Unwinding Travel or Disney directly or your own travel agent. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time for another fabulous adventure with the DCL Duo. Good night.